I titled this message, The Unity of Knowledge. Now, that will be the focus. It will come near the end of the message because we will try to deal with the text itself. The unity of knowledge, especially as it relates or as it concerns seminary education. I should have put seminary education there because of the nuance of the term seminary and the particularity of the kind of education that happens or that should happen within the seminary. John Henry Cardinal Newman addressed the same problems that I'll be addressing in his classic idea of the university. But I dare not call this message idea of a seminary, although that should be quite interesting as well. If not for the forced comparison, which is actually quite threatening. Now let me pick up the text which was set up by the description of the background of the Colossians and how they are wonderfully growing in grace. And part of that grace is manifested in the deepening knowledge. This is a knowledge that actually shapes the being of those Christians. And that's why it is so fascinating an issue. For this reason, since the day we heard it, we have not ceased praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will, in all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may lead lives worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to Him, as you bear fruit in every good work, and as you grow in the knowledge of God. So that is Paul's prayer, which is part of the epistle. So it's integrated in the letter. And let's pick up some of the key terms there. That you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may lead lives worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to Him, as you bear fruit in every good work and as you grow in the knowledge of God. So how can we improve on this? It is well said. And it immediately gives us that kind of knowledge which is well integrated, a knowledge that lies deep within because it has been formed within. And so that actions coming from within would bear witness, so that the good work will be made manifest. So all spiritual wisdom and understanding is the term used. And here we may simply regard this as meaning basically wisdom as good judgment in actual situations. Because one has a perspective on the pertinent things involved in events or circumstances. So this means that the Christian is an interpreter of situations, and that he's got a good view of the situation so that he can act wisely. So this thing is an extension of what we call in one of our courses here, hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is the art of understanding. You know the score, you know the things that are going on, and you are able to adapt yourself intelligently. And then, for those of you who are very much interested in high Christology, this is perhaps the singular place where we find the author's highest Christology. In our Theology 2 class, for those who went through with me in that course, we adopted a low Christology, but it's ascending, so that we can see the historical development of the thing in terms of reconstructing the historical Jesus from the Gospels. But this is a different sort of reflection on the implications of Christ who died and was risen. And the description goes like this: He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones, dominions, rulers, or powers. All things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So, for those who follow with the Greek, there will be interesting terms there like icon and prototokos, which translates firstborn. The icon of the God who is not seen, the firstborn. I did not check the Tagalog versions, but most likely it will be translated panganay. Panganay. Kuya, it has a different connotation, but pwede na rin, no, kuya. Kuya of all creation. In other religions, maybe the word avatar would be pertinent. The transliterated icon. No? There's a camera brand, Zeiss Icon. And it's a fitting brand for a camera which captures images. Image, in Tagalog, anyo, wangis, or maybe even lilo. Well, being the image, icon, can we translate this in the sense of manifestation or epiphany? A bit awkward because icon has a more tangible, palpable connotation to it. Contrasted with a God who is not seen, this icon is visible. It has a form. It can be met. It can be encountered visibly. So he is the visible person to whom all creation points. And that's a big claim by the author of Colossians. In the sense that all the elements of creation find or establish their bearing on him. Can you imagine that? That a reference point, if properly seen, will have the power of organizing everything else, no? Or at least everything finds their bearing from that particular point. And Christ is claimed by the author as functioning as the point, the focal point. Every creation must find their bearing in the relationship to him. Yet, with the added connotation of Christ's brotherly relation with them through the Theotokos. In that sense, Christ is very much part of the creation, although he has to be distinguished from it as well, since he is the basis or the center to which all creation points. This is about this brotherly kinship sense. This is the legitimate basis, if I may say, if we ever use the expression brother, son, sister, mood. And some of us in courses in spirituality, and Charles Ringma would be very much familiar and would be very much attuned with this language. Franco Zeffirelli produced a film with this title. It's of course a film about Saint Francis. It's worth watching. But look at this, from one striking expression to another. Now what do we have after the icon and so on and so forth? In him, all things hold together. I wonder what thoughts came to you when you first read these terms. No? In him, all things hold together. Kai autos estin pro panton. He is before all things, and in him, all things hold together, so as they can. Now, course, you can Google this because it's an important term and much still must be said about this. We can only, for the moment, imagine the sense in which everything holds together in Christ. But what looming vision it suggests, we are invited to fill in the blanks because Paul, or whoever the writer is, does not explain further. And when such occasions present themselves to us, we are invited to actually imagine and fill in the blanks, do our own projection. Projection there comes with a smiley because it's a loaded term. It's a Freudian term, which can be used as an accusation for all forms of theology. Theologies are projections of our wishes. But we can redeem that and say that where else may we draw our images about God than from our own experiences? And as long as we're disciplined about it, we are bound to do that, and we have to do that. And if we are aware that we are projecting, then we can be careful. So project we certainly will, but as I've said, disciplined by the succeeding verses. That's one way of establishing discipline here. And the following verses would be this. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn of all creation, so that he might come to have first place in everything, preeminence. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. Now, there are plenty of surprises in this passage, and this one. This kuya, this panganay, is the head of the church, which is also described as his very body. So the head is Christ. That's the firstborn in using another metaphor, but he's referring to the same reality, the same person. And guess what the body means, after giving the head. The church is his body. In Greek, soma. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell. Let's recover that again. And through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. Now, if the fullness of God dwells in the firstborn, and the firstborn is head of the church, which is further described as his body, where will our imagination further take us? Remember the fluidity of the metaphor. And yet, those are fair metaphors. And Paul is inviting us to make sense by the power of those analogies. Of course, we will draw from our own socialization, from the images that will be part of our own consciousness as we try to establish a recognizable meaning here. So where will our imagination further take us? Yes, we reflect this fullness as the body. Because in the psychology of the New Testament, especially the Pauline side, the body is the visible expression or the medium that makes the self, the person, visible. And the medium is the message, as one social scientist would put it. So that is a daunting truth, if we may say so. Yes, we must reflect this fullness. We're talking about the fullness of God in Christ, the firstborn, which is the head of whom? The head of the church. And who is the church? We comprise the church. So how is the daunting fullness of God reflected to the world through the soma, no? Because the soma is the medium through which the person is expressed. So we reflect, and that's why I put the thing, it's not in the text, we must reflect. No? In other words, there is an effort here. In a sense, it's a natural thing as expressed by the passage, but when you come to think of it, we have to really be faithful to this truth. We must faithfully express it, the fullness of God, nothing less. So, more or less, that's the trend of thought, that's the thread in the passage so far. And as far as the main point of this message goes, everything that I've said so far are mere setup. No? So the main point is still coming. No? But it's important to say those, right? Because they are the foundations. But usually the application is a small part of the entire base. No? And of course, we are also free to do that. And we must do that. Try to see implications. And this will be endless. The insights will be, cannot be exhausted. No? But let me throw my own opinion here. My main point is born by my last verse. No? Verse 20, and through him, God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. The passage is so dense, right? You try to recover your breath, and then when you return to it, you gasp again. No? Reconciling all things, making peace through the cross, those are the main action words. No? And the Greek terms behind will be apokatalaksai and irenopoiesas, from irene and katalazo. Reconcile and making peace, building peace, irene. And what again is the message's point? That is, what rides on the actions of reconciling and the making of peace, so that we can be a bit more concrete and contemporary about it. What did I, when I was reflecting on this, thinking which entity would ride the action verbs? For the aim of thinking through seminary education, the problem in need of reconciliation and peacemaking is the fragmentation of knowledge and how the seminary might deal with it, consistent with the notions of reconciliation and peace. Now, that's a minority report in terms of how this passage might be applied, but try to check whether we might find a vital connection, because the word panta is repeatedly used. So the author is thinking universe-wide, all elements, which is simplified in the sense that all the elements will find their bearing in Jesus Christ, and the action verbs are added as a result of that orientation, the preeminence of Jesus Christ over all creation being the firstborn, prototokos. And here we're talking about reconciliation, reconciling the entire universe. And since thought is very much part of the universe, and the most daunting element in the universe, human beings, might there be some need for understanding reconciliation in the area of thought? Especially that if we pay close attention to it, knowledge can fragment, thereby needing some kind of a reference point so that all knowledge will find some bearing for the unity, for the reconciliation. So this is how I connect this problem with the notions of reconciliation and peace. Now, the reminder of this will be the classic that also addressed this, John Henry Newman's idea of the university. The word university itself calls attention to its etymology, to the history of how the term was used. Because definitely it's talking about something analogous to the universe. It's the universe of knowledges, arts and sciences. And so John Henry Newman, as I've said, is a classic. So today, when some seminaries are closing and some universities are making great adjustments in terms of the issues of how much liberal arts would be taught there, under the pressure of producing commodities that may easily sell. And this is the pressure of the ethos of the prevailing economy. What happens to the leisure of offering and enjoying liberal arts? And in the idea of the university is defense of the liberal arts. Something like knowledge for knowledge's sake, rather than knowledge convertible to cash. So key terms to work on will be the integration of knowledge and the formation of the self. Because knowledge is not detached, right? There is an agent which uses, which produces, which integrates knowledge. And we cannot afford to simply focus on the objects of knowledge. The most important thing will be the subject, in whom knowledge is created. For after all, the universe is dead, right? We are the ones that put order to the universe by our powers of interpretation. Hence, the universality of hermeneutics. So how do we do this carefully and informedly? Now, the other concern, valid yet may cloud the main problem, is the usefulness of knowledge. The usefulness of knowledge. Rather than knowledge understood for its own sake. Alam niyo siguro ito, techne will be one Greek term for such idea, and that's where technology comes from, which may eventually degenerate into what we may call the commodification of skills. What use is knowledge if not convertible to skills? And which do you think is more sellable, more marketable, for those with market savvy out there? Virtues which are within, or skills which produce, which accomplish? If you are not careful about it, of course, the default is very obvious. Knowledge devolves into simply skills, and skills become commodity, just like an item in the market. Now, seminary is nice. University is nice, right? Seminary is even nicer, because wow, how organic can you be? Semen, seed, sprouting, and therefore the intimacy of the farmer in relation to the seed, and the patience and perseverance. Now, the next slide will be a mural created by a national artist, a Pinoy national artist, Manansala, which will, of course, the style will remind you of the surrealist, and it is surrealist in some ways. This is actually a mural that will be found in the lobby of College of Arts and Sciences. Of course, the College of Arts and Sciences was the name of the college when I was still there, and that was a long time ago. Now, because the science tend to be more easily funded, so the funds for the sciences outstrip the funds of the social sciences, technology, and therefore they moved because UP has a large land area, no? And they established their own college, the College of Science. No? And so the College of Arts and Sciences became College of Social Sciences and Philosophy. So that's what the place is called now. No? But can you imagine that if you enter the main, the center gate of that college and then go through the lobby, you will be greeted by this magnificent painting, no? By national artist Sentiman Sala. Now the next slide will be a detail of that. No? So here, para lang wisdom ni Lola ni Dora dito. No? Hindi lang gamit ang damdamin, kundi pati isip. No? You don't simply use brains, you use heart. No? And there's a balance there. And then right at the center is the discerning eye, no? Which is the classical symbol for knowledge, even omniscience. No? It's a delicate balance, but it must be attempted. No? And the College of Arts and Sciences must strive for the balance among the disciplines, no? In the unity of knowledge. No? I asked my students, I got invited to teach Philosophy 171, which is Philosophy of Ethics in the extension in UP Clark. No? And one of the exercises I did for the young college students was for them to interpret, no, the oblation. Of course, it's taken for granted. No? They spent $1 million in order to get an exact replica by an artist of the oblation. It is standing there. No? So I might as well give them their money's worth. And so what does the oblation mean? ATS, by the way, needs to think of its own symbol, no? An icon. No? We're open for auditions. No? But instead of a man, maybe we should employ a woman. No? Of course, the pose will be appropriate, more appropriate to the other sex. No? So it's interesting how they actually, I'm sure they were asked this question for the first time. No? But it's a course on ethics, so it's a course of value. So when another national artist made this, no? Guillermo Tolentino, the sculptor, and the model is the father of Fernando Po. So what does that mean? No? Of course, one immediate recitation from a creative student to see that whatever it means, no, it's a daring image. No? It's a daring image. It's audacious. There's audacity there. So could it be that audacity is one of the virtues that promotes the quest for knowledge? No? You can't afford to be a sissy. You can't afford to be a coward when you're actually exploring knowledge. No? You need fortitude, no? Moral courage. But of course, since it's called oblation, the title suggests a particular direction of meaning. It is an offering. No? And since University of the Philippines, a state university, no? It envisions alumni serving the people. So the oblation is an offering. No? So the knowledge in the way is to be offered back to the community in the service of the people. Then there's someone that said, wow, imagine standing there, no? You'll feel vulnerable. You'll feel so transparent. Sometimes transparency also spells vulnerability. And then, of course, audacity. But if one is pure, to the extent one can achieve that virtue, no, you wouldn't mind, no, criticisms. You wouldn't mind disagreements, no, if you are pursuing knowledge. For after all, everyone must put a common stake on the advance of knowledge. No? And there are so many ways by which to arrive at it. And definitely it may not skip clashes, no? Antinomies, like thesis and antithesis, no? The dualism of Hegel. But positively, we are aiming for the formation of the self, and this is very prominent in John Henry Newman. John Henry Newman is a priest. No? He used to be Anglican, but he became Catholic. But even if he's talking about the university, I conceive as a secular idea, because he himself, even if he's a church person, do not want the church to be involved in the university if the university is public. Let the free discourse run its course, rather than introduce non-negotiable doctrines. No? So positively, we're aiming for the formation of the self consistent with the Colossian passage, operationalized in such aims as the cultivation of the virtues. And so usually, even the medieval church would return, the university in the medieval period, the classic university, the original university, would return to the classic virtues. And by classic virtues, we're talking about Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and the Nicomachean Ethics. And the four cardinal virtues will be fortitude, prudence, justice, and temperance. No? These are not skills, by the way. No? These are inner inclinations of the heart, of the deepest self. And will take time for the virtues to form. No? And so the exercise of things that are good, worthy, noble, must become a habit in order for the virtue to form, a habitus. So you sweat for it. No? It is not served in a silver platter. It's not a cut and paste thing. No? And one must remember that. But when we're studying this as Christians in the seminary, in ethics, we usually ask the question, what's lacking here? No? Why the four cardinal virtues? We agree to be cardinal. No? They are a hinge, no, from where we move. But what may be lacking there? Why not love? No? Because love is the prominent virtue in Christianity, right? So that's a nice problematic for a term paper. And part of our ongoing assignment, reflecting on the virtues and how we actually identify the most fundamental virtues. I think the church noticed that, no? And therefore, rather than reject the four cardinal virtues, which was well developed and formed into a tradition after Nicomachean Ethics, they just added the Christian virtues, the theological virtues, faith, hope, and love. No? And I think with this, no, we go full circle. We get into the integrated set of virtues. Because after all, no, all the virtues will be negated, as is demonstrated by Alexander the Great, who is the most prominent student of Alexander the Great. I'm sure Alexander the Great read the Nicomachean Ethics, no, and mastered it in a way that is unparalleled. No? And it is mostly the reason for his rise to prominence, power, and influence. No? But it got into his head. No? Hence, pointing to the need for faith, hope, and love. Self-denial, no? The stauron, the cross, the blood of the cross. So that the virtues themselves would be fully redeemed, no? And fully directed to the proper object. Faith, hope, love. So maybe in the seminary setting, that's it. No? We have to put in faith, hope, love there in the curriculum. Medyo bitin ito, no? I will admit that we will be left hanging because I've opened up something very important here. No? And our guests are helping us also to actually reflect carefully on what is at the heart of seminary education so that it may be sustainable. Because if we miss it, no, we will be majoring on the minor, and that's not sustainable. No? We have to get to the heart of the thing, no, in the very idea of seminary education. And so my final image would be titled Contemplation, by Ildefonso Marcelo. This is also found at the University of the Philippines. By the way, there are so many works of art in the University of the Philippines. I should make a catalog of that, and put it in a map of the university, so that when you jog or walk around campus, you'll be able to find them more easily. So this is version of the thinker, but I think this is more dramatic, and more Pinoy. Nag-iisip pero nagpapahinga, di ba? Yung parang dala-dala niya yung problema ng buong mundo eh. The thinker ni Rodin, the Rodin's thinker is so serious about the thinking. Well, this can accommodate all sorts of ideas under the sun, and not necessarily problematic in the serious way. So, students, faculty, those who are in charge of the curriculum, it wouldn't harm if we return to the most basic issue and think most basically about education as formation. By the way, John Henry Newman, wow, he spent his life dedicated to this. He got kicked out of Oriel College of Oxford University, which he loved so much, and yet he kept on, even personally tutoring students. And what can be more effective than a tutorial relationship between a tutor and a learner, just like a disciple and the master, Jesus Christ. God bless his passage and the reflections. Thank you.